News of the maximum variety. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Maximum News. We got to do this pretty quickly today. Thankfully, there wasn't that much big news this past week, so that should be relatively easy. Sorry, I just got something I got to do after the show. We'll start off.
No problem.
Yeah, we'll start off. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're also forgetting to mention the giant chocolate bunny hunt. I mean, like, really? I mean, that's also like we gotta get back to that because I mean, there was a 5-footer just outside. I saw it. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get that one.
Yeah,
Now,
there's this.
I think there's a small chance that it might be somebody in a suit, but I'm betting on that it's one of those chocolate Easter bunnies.
Yeah, regardless if it's one in a suit or an actual bunny, it's huge. It's tearing up my garden, and it's gotta die. I'll deal with the legal ramifications afterwards. Plus, it's Easter tomorrow, so the chocolate will help ease the pain, even if I do end up going to jail. Let's start off with Projekt Red. As we know, the creators of The Witcher and Cyberpunk 2077. They released their financial earnings report this past week, and there's just some interesting details in here that I think are worthwhile talking about. First of all, The Witcher 3, widely regarded as one of the greatest games ever made, came out in 2015. As of now, it appears that The Witcher 3 has sold over 40 million copies. That puts it roughly in the top 15 games ever in terms of sales. I think it just has to pass like Ms. Pac-Man and then like one or two other games before it can get into the top 10. And I imagine by the time that the next gen versions of The Witcher 3 are released for Xbox Series X and PS5, then maybe they'll be able to top that. We'll have to see. And it's going to be a while before we see that because what was also announced via Twitter was that the next gen versions have been delayed indefinitely. They had originally outsourced development of the next gen versions to another studio, but it appears, according to Twitter, that they're going to be bringing the rest of the development in-house. They're going to reassess sort of where they are, how long things are going to take, and then they'll re-announce a release date. But for now, it's going to be delayed indefinitely. And let's see, there was one other thing. Oh yes, it's the actual thumbnail for this podcast. The DLC for Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah, remember how they said like they were going to be releasing a whole bunch of free DLC pretty soon? Like, and the game came out in what, late 2020? Well, it appears that it's going to be roughly 3 entire years. Maybe like 2.5, but close to 3 years before we get.
I just want them to do it right from the get-go. I really think that they've kind of dropped the ball on a lot of things that they were like the original stuff. Like they rebooted that so many times. There were so many features cut. We knew about features. A bunch of other people found out about features. They announced dozens of features that they ended up cutting,
like wall running.
Yeah, wall running. Social lobbies, just like tons of stuff. There was one cut after another, and it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating because there's so much more there was so much more to do there. There was so much more expansion, and not to like. And again, not even to mention, one of my pet peeves is, not only was it the third person stuff, it was the RPG mechanics. And they're stepping away from the RPG mechanics, which really sucked, which really brought the game down because, again, they could have done better. I think they just the wheel didn't need to be reinvented that many times. I mean, I'm all for reinventing the wheel, but this was a little on the too much side, and it was really disappointing for so many of us who were so excited, who were, it really felt like that, Anakin and that Anakin moment where, he's like, you were the chosen one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been like that far too much lately in the entire industry. And I hope they learn from this lesson. There's still some things that are going on at the studio that I think they need to clean up. But yeah, let's just cross your fingers and hope they get around to it eventually.
Well, they are making the right decisions as of late, at least with The Witcher 4. They are moving to Unreal Engine 5. So hopefully, because Unreal Engine appears to be, like everybody, I don't know anything about game development, but Unreal Engine appears to be very user-friendly. So hopefully when The Witcher 4 releases, if there are any problems, they aren't going to be released to related to technical issues. It won't be like Cyberpunk 2077 situation, like when it releases, all the problems were technical, and they spent the last 2 years trying to fix that, and they still haven't really addressed everything, but you know what I'm trying to say. And then, hopefully with the DLC, it will be enough. Hopefully it'll be up the quality approaching that of the DLC, the famed DLC for Witcher 3, where it will invite a whole bunch of people to want to go back. People will be able to see all the improvements that they made and see that, hey, apparently it is getting closer to the game that we already imagined. And hopefully by the time that DLC comes out, modding tools and modders will have been able to create enough content to sort of get back to that original vision. Maybe implement those type of RPG mechanics that were taken out originally. But that's just basically all that we know. It's going to be a while before we see anything new from CD Projekt Red. In the meantime, why not go play Witcher 3 again? I know I still have to. All right, let's move on to the next one. What? Okay, China. What BS is China doing right now, Syb?
More stuff, more excellent stuff in which you will feel like, hey, I really just wish the nightmare dystopian future of the authoritarian regime where there's floating robots in the street telling you that, remember to be a good citizen and report all suspicious activity to your local overlord, and don't play games that are not authorized. So yeah, this is a thing. Yeah, this is a thing that's happening.
Yeah, that is actually. He's not even actually very far off. I mean, you are slightly exaggerating a little, but there are, like, in case you don't know, like in Shanghai, for example, there are drones going around telling people to stay inside their apartment buildings for weeks on end because of COVID,
and to repress their soul's desire for freedom. Yes, that's an actual government line. So Elden Ring, I don't know if you've heard of it. It was a little game that got released just recently, mildly popular.
Speaking of the chosen one, they're like From Software and Elden Ring. That's the new chosen one. But go ahead.
Yeah, so they're out there. They're doing great. Well, China game players really seem to like it, and they really like to watch people streaming it. However, it's not actually allowed to be sold in China. Therefore, the Chinese regulation board is coming down on streamers and players and gamers for how dare they get around and buy a product that's not approved to be is for sale in China, and certain people have started to be arrested for the matter. Yeah.
Because how dare you play a game that has skulls in it? We can't have games with skulls in it. Like that's actually a policy, by the way. They won't allow you, like, depictions of skulls. So nothing about pirates, even though pirates are awesome. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So China's regulation around video game continues to focus on compliance and enforcement. Games have always required a license before they could be distributed or streamed in China. The latter was rarely enforced, but now it will be. This is from a guy on Twitter. So yeah, this is not good. This is, again, more crackdown on people. You're not allowed to play this game because we do not approve of it. You're not allowed to play this product because we do not approve of it. Your government telling you what you can or cannot do, what you can or cannot think, is always a good sign that life is heading towards what do you call those things?
Nuclear catastrophe.
I was thinking dumpster fire, but sure,
it feels like a nuclear catastrophe.
seems to be okay with that. So yeah, disappointing.
It's like, you feel humanity, you feel for your fellow gamers in China, because Elden Ring was such a gift to the gaming community. Like, base price, no gimmicks, you get a huge game at retail price, at a high price, and then apparently we're going to be getting additional DLC later on. It was wonderful, and plus it wasn't entirely a buggy mess. Like, it was slightly for the people on PC right at the very beginning, but that was quickly addressed. And it was a nice change of events compared to several previous releases that have been coming out that have been extremely disappointing, especially in the year 2021, where, like, I think the two best games that came out that year were It Takes Two, for me at least, and Halo. And even Halo was a disappointment to a lot of people for good reason. So yeah, the fact that China had this and now it's just getting taken away, that, for amongst a million other reasons, just makes my heart break for them.
Yeah. So yeah, this not good. And anytime any government gets even close to this, please say something, do something, switch a vote, pursue something else. Don't let this take root, because if this takes root, as we're seeing China, things could always get much, 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 much worse.
I know it's kind of too late to. Well, I mean, like, you can openly criticize and advocate for current companies to stop doing business in China. Companies like Disney, companies like Activision Blizzard. But what I think would be most effective is that when certain companies start doing business with China in the future, that we come down on them hard and make sure that, you know, obviously within legal and moral bounds. But yeah, we can't do business with this type of country, with the type of stuff that they're doing. All right, and then on a less serious note, but certainly still disconcerting, Xbox is doing what?
So, well, it's not just Xbox. Xbox is the latest one that's been, you know, has filed for certain patents, but we know that most of the other gaming platforms and a lot of the developers are starting to like pursue this technology, which will be placing ads into your games. Yes, you're going to be walking down a hallway talking with an NPC, and then they're going to stop and they're going to be like, "Hey, man, let's watch this ad." And then, you know, your attention will be forcibly turned to the screen in game, and you will see an ad for the latest, you know, Mountain Dew product, or, you know, the latest pay-per-view site, you know, and the NPC will be sitting there going, "Yeah, man, this stuff's great. You should get it. Do you have it? Do you have one of those limited codes that they put on the bottom of the bottle? Hey, man, you should totally get that. I'll wait here until you get that. I'm gonna wait here until you get that."
How long is it?
And then the NPC is just gonna sit there, you know, in his idle form, like, "Hey, did you get that ad yet?"
I'm gonna keep being a dick about it. Sorry.
It's like we joke about it, but this is something that's coming down the pipe.
It's already been attempted. Didn't they do it with that? I can't remember. It was an MMA type game, and there was this huge controversy about them advertising the newest season of The Boys on Amazon or something like that. And then people got
like
mad
I said,
about it.
yeah, like I said, this technology is being pursued now. In some senses, it kind of makes sense, right? Like if you talk about a wrestling game or a sports map, I mean, there's always ads all over the place. So like, why not turn them into real ads for actual products and then just advertise them there? And so in that kind of concept, it kind of makes sense. But you'd think that the studios would be smart about it and just be like, yeah, you know, we're gonna knock off, you know, like, you know, whatever, we're gonna give you like weekly free DLC or something like that, or you know, monthly or whatever, like semi-monthly, whatever. Trying to get you to get into it, right? Trying to like be like, hey, this is a good thing because you get more out of this stuff you're being advertised to, and you know, and some of these products are actually good, you know, that kind of stuff. But what I fear we're going to end up seeing is we are going to see that like enforced arbitration of like, you know, we'll start to see more and more like modern day game settings in which like the ads come through, or my worst fear is that we're going to get ads like, you know, you're going to be in some kind of like fantasy world, you know, and you go to the like, oh, let us go to the inn and boast of our achievements and blood and toil and all this stuff, and they go in and you're like, yeah, we slew that dragon, that's great, you know. You walk in and the little fairy flies over and she's like, hi, would you like some Mountain Dew Extreme? I can have it ordered to your address at blankety blank 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 street. And it's like, oh yeah, that's not going to pull me out of the immersion at all, right? You know, that's not going to be immersive as blank, as a certain Henry likes to say. And I like, I'm legitimately like, yeah, this is probably going to happen at some point, right? Yeah. Like, it's definitely going to happen for those damn phone games, because I can't get those ads. I mean, they're already like pop-ups like nonstop in some of them, and it's just pointless to even try to play. It just sours the experience so much when you're just bombarded constantly with ads, more ads, more ads, more ads. It's like, stop, go away. I don't care. No, please stop. It sucks, but yeah. Well, at least maybe with the microtransaction ads, you know, in some of this stuff, you'll be encouraged to go out and buy, you know, a bottle of Mountain Dew versus like, and I'm really hitting on Mountain Dew today, but yeah, you get an ad to buy Mountain Dew instead of like $199 for a super pack that unlocks some basic item that you desperately need to finish a quest, right? Because that's not a thing.
Right. Can you imagine, like, in the next Witcher game, if they had he's sitting in a tavern and somebody comes up to him and he's like, "Hey, have you ever tried the new breadstick basket at Olive Garden or something like that?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It would ruin games so much. But again, it's like we know that these advertisers will try anything. Like, as soon as they figured out that they could do anything and get away with it, they just started like ramping it up, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and higher now. So
I can tell you right now that if I start playing Halo Infinite and they start trying to sell me ads for Pringles, trying to get me to do like double XP weekend and stuff like that, I'm not playing it anymore. Yeah, it's just like you said, it'll ruin the entire experience. I understand in respect to certain, like, maybe indie games are trying a free-to-play model that might want to put advertisements in there, but even then, we got to be cautious. We got to be able to warn the majority of gamers about this sort of new practice, so that way it doesn't become a regular thing. Now, speaking of I guess I don't know if you can sort of classify them as indie developers right now, but Hello Games, the creators of No Man's Sky, that is arguably one of the greatest comeback stories in the history of games. Even though, comeback stories shouldn't really be a mainstay. Games, when they release, they should be finished. But obviously there was a huge controversy with No Man's Sky when it originally came out, how it came out unfinished. But like, credit where credit is due, Hello Games put in the effort over the last 5 to 6 years to try and bring their original vision of No Man's Sky to life, and they've largely succeeded. Now, obviously, they can't depend on No Man's Sky forever. Like, certain game companies can sort of depend on one game forever. Square Enix, Final Fantasy XIV. Sorry, that wasn't the best. But we are, because No Man's Sky was such an ambitious project, and they managed to pull it off even though it took them a few years, we are obviously curious about what they're going to do next. Well, in an interview with IGN, the founder of Hello Games, Sean Murray, said that they are working on their next game, and like No Man's Sky, they are going to be attempting something that is going to be equally ambitious. So here, I'll just read the quote quickly. He said, "For a while now, we've been working on something pretty ambitious in the background. It's a small team, but we like it that way. Similar to No Man's Sky, it's the kind of project that even if we had 1,000 people working on it, it'd seem impossible." Now, this does worry me at first, because it's like, well, we saw what happened last time when you took on a project that seemed fit for only 1,000 people, and it came out. But he did address that briefly with the following sentence. He said, "No Man's Sky is not being held back by the next project, but neither is the new thing being slowed by No Man's Sky. We're lucky enough to be able to allow folks to move freely to work on what excites them." He also said that they learned their lesson on talking about games too early after No Man's Sky's open and controversial pre-release. So it seems like they're going to be taking their time with this and not announcing anything until it sort of gets to a point where they're ready to talk about it. So, Sai, what are your thoughts?
It's good. I mean, we're like, in all these cases, it's like we want them to do good stuff, right? But sometimes, like our earlier story, sometimes their vision gets a little bit ahead of them, and sometimes it's not necessarily realistic. But yeah, for them to like come out and say, "Oh yeah, we probably can't get this done. It's just way too ambitious." It's like, then maybe you might want to scale things back a little bit. Mm-hmm. Maybe you might want to like reduce it a little bit. I mean, and again, for a studio that made such problems in the past with overpromising and overhyping, it's like, I would highly encourage him to just literally keep his mouth shut, period. Until they are like going into until they're going into a point where they want to start like letting players get into some kind of a beta, I don't think you should talk about it. And
Right.
in all honesty, it's like I think that overall, the studios need to stop talking about their games, years before they're done.
Adopt the Bethesda approach. As much as it pains me to say that, and like
It's either the Bethesda approach or it's the Larian approach. You either talk about your game, 6 months to the time it's shipping. You can leak. You can put out the name. You can like do stuff that's going to leak anyways, right? Like you can just keep people generally like, oh yeah, we're working on a game. It's going to be an action adventure game, and it's going to be like based in high fantasy, and we're using this engine, and it should be really cool. That is all you should say on it until you're about 3 months away from launch.
Yeah.
Or you need to do the Larian approach, which is like, hey guys, we're working on this game. We have made a section of the game available for pre-order. If you pre-order the game, you immediately get this section of the game. It will be updated at least once every 4 to 5 months, if not 3 months. We appreciate your feedback. Let us know what you think of the abilities and classes and that kind of stuff, and just go through it, right? Like that's the way to do games now. Not this, hey, we're working on a game that's like 5 years out. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be the most amazing thing you'll ever see. It's like every time somebody has said that now, I have been disappointed massively. They just need to stop doing this. It doesn't work. Shut up, please.
And even if you do take the Bethesda approach, you just got to make sure it's not like the Fallout 76 approach, where even though they did wait to talk about it until like the last several months before the game came out in a terrible state. So hopefully they'll release it, they'll talk about it when it's actually finished. Hopefully, because it's just happened so many times already that studios will start to listen. But I don't know. I feel like we're sort of at that juncture point where studios are either going to make a change or they're just going to double down and keep doing the same crap, or they release the game unfinished and then fix it over time. But I suppose maybe we'll see the transition to either or when Starfield comes out. Hopefully that game will come out finished and won't be like Fallout 76.
I'm expecting a handful of bugs.
Yeah, because it's Bethesda.
I'm sure a few bugs will be there. I'm sure that it will be a frustrating thing for like a little bit, but I keep hearing the same thing, and this is their most polished game to date.
Right.
So
hopefully it's like, if there are bugs, it's going to be like Elden Ring type bugs, where it's like problems with the frame rate, but it's still largely playable, like that type of minimal bugs. We'll see. At least in that regard, we only have, it comes out November, so 7 months from now. Jeez. Mm-hmm. And then we'll probably see our first gameplay in June, because that's what I said last year, and I'm sticking to that. Yep. So anyways, Sean, please just... I wonder what would be more ambitious than the entire universe? Like parallel universes? I don't know. We'll see. All right. And then finally, we got a few smaller stories that we just wanted to give some attention to before we completed our recording today. One of them I didn't look much into. I sort of wanted you to just dictate it to me, but just the title of it sounds interesting. A headset saved some guy's life.
Yeah, apparently a bullet whizzed into this kid's room and hit his headset right near his temple, or like right back of his temple a little bit, and was the only reason why he didn't die immediately. So there you go, guys. When you're going out to buy your next headset, make sure it can stop bullets.
I'd like to know what type of brand it was, so that way I can go get it. Just you can never be too safe. By the way, in case you guys are wondering where this happened, it apparently happened in a city called Torrance in California, and it happened to an 18-year-old. So, yeah, don't move there. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'd love to know. Was it made out of titanium or Kevlar or something? Do you have to go to the NRA?
Anytime a bullet goes through a wall, it's already been massily slowed down. So, and again, it depends on like how big it is, but yeah, that was an interesting story. Another interesting.
Story. Quickly, it was a Razer headset, so like the one that I have. So, if Canada ever becomes a hellscape, like World War III starts, and I'm playing games or something, and a bullet comes through, I should be relatively safe. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And then I have seen Mooney and I went to go see the Sonic movie the other night.
Oh, nice. What? How is it?
It is very good. It's definitely a kids show. Obviously, don't expect it to be like, standing up to that Game of Thrones level stuff. There's none of that in it. It's funny, it's cute, it's a little silly. There's some scenes where it's kind of like a little bit of an eye roll, but it does have that kind of like, it does like lead up to a funny thing. Correlation between the first movie and the second movie, definitely there. Generally healthy, and this is good because this is that like, hey guys, if you do it right, video game movies can work.
Yeah.
Just do it right. Don't screw it up. It's so basic, right? It's like, oh, people don't like this movie because they're, some kind of ism. It's like, or it's just not a very good movie. I mean, it's like how many movies in the past in similar circumstances, Alien, came out and people were like, hey, this is great. Labyrinth, again, it's like, there's nothing wrong with this stuff when you have a good, when the story makes sense. It protects the lore, and it does, it does a service to the community. It's got great scenes in it, but when it's just campy, stupid, cringy stuff, guess what? People don't like that. It's just kind of shocking. Who knows? And then I want to talk about another.
Sorry, just very quickly, because I haven't seen it yet. I do want to see it. Quickly, I've heard that Knuckles is really, really good in the movie. Is that true?
Pretty good. It's pretty straightforward. Like, you could guess the thing, right? Like, you could guess the story arc for him. Mm-hmm. So it's not like brand new. It's the animation. His animation's great. General perky character is great. Follows through with a lot of the writing from what I remember. I didn't. My only one complaint is that he a couple times is Tails a boy or a girl?
I think he's a boy.
I think he's a boy because I seem to remember another like female type from one of the games, or maybe the show from like way back when. At any rate, it's like, I kind of wish he was a little bit more like, not as like, oh no, I don't believe in myself. It's like, you traveled across the galaxy there, buddy. I'm pretty sure you're right. I'm pretty sure you're a little bit more competent than the average person. And just saying.
Dude, he can fly and run as fast as Sonic if he wanted to. That's pretty badass.
Right. So it's like it makes sense. So there's some stuff there. Yeah. So that's my only one complaint. And again, it's like, that's an adult complaining about the movie when it is aimed primarily at children, and children need those kinds of lessons reinforced at a much closer perspective. So, if I was taking my kid to this, I'd be very happy. I'm sure they would learn a decent amount. So
yeah, I saw the first movie. I liked it. I'd say probably best video game movie ever made, and it's because there's just so many terrible ones. But the fact that we had one that was decent, and you can imagine kids really, really enjoying it, and the fact that I want to go see a new one is good news. It like you said, it spells it shows that there's probably going to be a more positive direction moving forward for movies and TV based off of video game properties. We have it with Sonic. We have it with Arcane, and arguably with Castlevania, although I haven't seen that myself. Let's hope that trend continues. All right, and then what else do we have?
Then we have the final story, which is NeuroGrow is making some news in the healthcare community. NeuroGrow is a game that involves gardening, but it's designed to enhance function, your neural circuitry, like function better. Like it's for people who've either had some accident, who are suffering some kind of neurological degenerative issue, elderly people, that kind of stuff. And again, it goes to show that games have the ability to stimulate nerves and your brain in ways that not everything else can, and that this isn't to say that games are are a cure all. They're not. They're just one of the many steps that you can incorporate into helping people stay sharp and stay focused. And card games do this. There's lots of science behind that. We actually talk about that in our new book, which you can get right now. It is up on Kindle right now, but it's coming out on Amazon soon for like physical order. You check it's called The Best of Classic Card Games. And yeah, both like card games help you, and this one video game is specifically designed to help increase neural circuitry. Now, I think a lot of games do that just on their own. Anytime you're learning something,
Sure.
Learning a new language will also help you, especially in your old age. So when you get old, learn another language, learn to code, like anything that helps you to like learn a new way of giving and receiving information will help your brain to retain a significant amount of sharpness. So look into doing things like that, and check out NeuroGrow. It's NeuroGrow.
It's out now?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to check that out. Yeah, video games, when it comes to their interactivity, it's still a medium that has yet to see itself exploited to its fullest potential. Like, we do have examples of games that do help in that regard. Like, I think there was one game on the Nintendo DS that I was obsessed with called Brain Age that actually helped train your brain. And then there are other examples like that. And there's so much more that we have to, like, such a long path that we have to go to, like eventually culminating in stuff that we've talked about in this show, like Gabe's wanting to maybe take Half-Life 3 and make it sort of like a game where you connect your brain or something, or just blurring the line between digital reality and real reality.
That's gonna be yeah. Mm-hmm.
And using that type of interactivity to help people to sort of learn and to be entertained. Video games have that capacity, and I cannot wait to see where the technology takes us in that regard, especially if it gets us Half-Life 3. All right, that's it, right?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this shorter episode of Maximum News. Sorry about all the noise in the background. It's been an unusual day today around the Max Derrat household. I promise it won't be the case next week. I want to thank Syb, as always, for doing the show with me, always, and providing his invaluable insight. Syb, do you want to just tell other people about the main channel before we sign off?
Check us out on the Triple S League on YouTube and a couple other sites that we're on as far as like video hosting goes. And we've got a series of new guides and stuff coming up shortly, and I might do a guide for Vampire Survivors. Super, super popular right now.
I haven't actually heard of it. I'll check it out very, very quickly before I head out the door. And speaking of the aforementioned Elden Ring, if you guys want to see sort of in-depth lore analysis of that game, you should go over to my channel, which I'll be putting out a new video on that next week. I've already done a few on the game. The new one will be on the sorcery that we find in the game. I'll put links to my channel and the main Triple S League channel in the description box. All right, that's it. See you next week, guys.
See ya.